Hello and welcome back to Ghosteas. I'm Macy.
Hi, I'm Natalie.
And we're returning to Alton today, Alton Part 2. So if you haven't seen the first one, go ahead, watch it. It's more history and you kind of get the lay of the land here before we dive into some more hauntings.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Before we begin, I just wanted to say again that I got the bulk of my information from Troy Taylor. He's an author of a book called Haunted Alton, History and Mystery of One of the Most Haunted Small Towns in America. And he's co-host to another great podcast called American Hauntings. And they did the whole first season about Alton. He lived in Alton. The co-host for there also grew up in Alton. So they have a lot of insight.
They're
really
experts.
Cool. They truly are.
Book title, though, is a tongue twister. Haunted Alton. Like, when you said it, I was
it's called Haunted Alton. And then,
yeah, but just
subtitle.
Give
a little more context.
Yeah, it's a long title.
So, are you ready to get started, or you have anything to say before we go?
I'm ready to try the tea. That's it.
Okay. So, our tea this week is from the Republic of Tea. It's called Cupcake Caramel Vanilla.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Choice of tea this week is superb.
Yes. 9.7 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that might be the highest score we have.
Really?
I think so.
For 2024 at least?
For 2024.
Okay, because it started out bad.
Yeah.
So, this is probably the top one so far. It's only February.
And we're keeping a tally. I need to actually update it, but we're keeping a running tally of our top teas.
Like a Spotify Wrapped, it'll be our tea wrap. Yeah. I'm actually really excited about it.
Me too.
But
on to why we're all here today. As you can imagine, there are so many haunted buildings and homes through the entirety of Alton. We talked about many of them in part 1. So again, if you haven't seen part 1, lots of spooky haunting stuff then. Along with the buildings, there are also haunted cemeteries.
Duh.
It being one of the most haunted small towns in America. Of course it has a haunted cemetery, but really what town doesn't? The stories are really interesting, so if you have time, go look it up. But I wanted to give y'all something a little more strange.
Mm-hmm.
Not just your regular run-of-the-mill cemetery haunting.
Sorry, go on. I had tea in my mouth, but go on.
One such story has nothing to do with ghosts at all, but it definitely feels like there was something supernatural going on, and it felt right to mention it here. On October 10th, 1889, the house on 302 Cherry Street experienced something quite unbelievable. A sudden storm of rocks rained down onto the roof of the house, busting through windows and falling through the roof over the porch. Hundreds of people gathered around the home attempting to figure out where exactly the rocks were coming from. Now I know what you're thinking. It must have been meteorites or meteors or something from space. But reports claim that these were rocks from the Earth.
How did they know?
I don't know the
Okay.
geology of 1889.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. But reports say that they were Earth rocks, not space rocks. I mean, I'm sure they've seen meteors before.
Mm-hmm.
Many theories were put forth as to where the rocks could be coming from, like a strange weather pattern maybe, but no other location was affected. Just this house.
Whoa, wait.
Over
what?
this house was just a rain of rocks. Some even believed it could have been a group of hooligans throwing these rocks, but they soon realized that it wasn't possible because they were coming from the sky and not from maybe another building over. The rock shower went on for nearly 2 weeks, raining down rocks from the size of a pea to the size of a baseball. Nobody has any idea why something like this may occur, but some paranormal believers think it could be something ghostly. Maybe a poltergeist or a surge of some kind of energy stirring things up. Anyway, the mystery remains. No one knows why rocks were raining down for 2 weeks on this one house in all of Alton.
But is that paranormal? Like, what does it mean? What does it mean? I don't know.
It could be paranormal.
I don't know what to make of that. That's just very strange.
I like to think that it's paranormal, like some kind of energy.
I guess.
But I don't know. I felt it was necessary to put it in because I was intrigued.
I am too, but I don't know how I feel. That's just very, okay,
Odd.
Yeah.
Well, moving on now into the actual hauntings. One legend turned haunting story in Alton belongs to a building that unfortunately no longer exists. It met its end in a fire in 2010, but when it first opened in 1834, the Mansion House was a bustling hotel where guests would enjoy excellent lodging, food, and a convenient location for those traveling through whether by river or land.
Mm-hmm.
It housed many important guests, including President Lincoln, and was the location of Elijah Lovejoy's final abolitionist meeting before his untimely death, if you remember from last week's episode. It was purchased by the Catholic Church and turned into a boarding school run by nuns in 1855, and was turned into Alton's very first hospital after Lincoln asked the nuns to help remedy the epidemic of smallpox that broke out in the prison during Civil War, also mentioned in the first episode.
I was about to say, yeah, I feel like I knew that. I
Yes,
did.
You did. Many prisoners, soldiers, and townspeople alike met their untimely end in this home while being treated for smallpox, and this may be part of the reason for some of the unearthly noises that were heard through the nights at the mansion house.
I feel like we're always saying that, like, oh, 17,000 people died. Do you think that could be why it's haunted? It's like, yes.
It's definitely
Yes,
haunted,
I
and
do.
that's why.
I'm sorry, not at you.
No,
Just like,
I feel you.
yes.
I'd like to keep it a little open-ended. I have a problem with making definitive statements. I just personally, mostly because I don't like to be proven wrong.
Okay.
So I'd rather be unsure than wrong.
When I'm saying facts, I'm just saying my opinion that I really believe.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm like, duh, it's haunted, I just think that it is, but I'm taking my opinion as fact. So take that as you will.
The most intriguing story of hauntings within the mansion house, though, comes from Tom, the one-eyed Indian fighter Boothby. That's a long nickname.
Okay.
So the story of Tom Boothby begins near the opening of the lodging house, long before the nuns took over in 1836. He was said to be an old man ravaged by the events of the War of 1812, missing not only his eye, but also one of his arms. He supposedly lost his eye in one of his many battles against the Native Americans during the war and seemed to have some mental scars to go along with the physical. After arriving at the mansion house, he locked himself in his room and was never seen exiting until his death.
Oh, wait, what?
He just got there, said, "All right, thanks," closed the door, and never left his room.
Me.
I know.
It's my
I was like,
dream.
that's pretty relatable.
Yeah.
If I could, I would. What he spent his days doing, nobody knew. But he stayed in his room asking that a worker drop off his meals in the mornings and receive payment in the empty trays the next day. His nights, however, were a different story. More often than not, Boothby could be heard crying out in his sleep in the night.
Aw.
It's really sad and frightening.
Yeah. Little dark.
He would scream as if for his life, scared that the Indians were after him, coming to kill him as revenge for all of the pain and suffering that he had caused. Many times, the other residents of the lodging house would exit their rooms and make their way to Boothby's, pounding on his door to check up on him. He never opened the door, but would apologize and everyone would just go back to sleep.
Wait, so he was a bad guy?
Nobody knows his true story. All they know is that he claimed to have, his nickname was the one-eyed Indian fighter.
Oh,
So
true.
in the War of 1812, he was battling a lot of Native Americans because they were like really
Yeah.
in it.
I'm trying to decide how I feel about this man.
I don't know. I don't know his whole story, so I can't give an opinion.
Because I want to be like, death to all of them. But like, him. I'm meaning him.
Yes.
But then again, I'm like, but I don't know what he did. I'm so torn. But
Yes.
okay. Continue.
It happened so often that eventually the regular guests on his floor learned to ignore his screams and let him calm himself down for the next 2 years.
Maybe he shouldn't have been left alone.
Probably. But in 1836, I don't think they had any kind of treatment for PTSD. So one night in 1838, Boothby's screams would be heard for the last time. Those staying at the mansion house claimed to have heard Tom scream out like usual in the middle of the night. But this time, he was saying that the Indians had found him.
So I'm getting the vibe that Tom's bad. I don't know. I just get bad vibes.
I get bad vibes too. The image in my mind is not a nice guy.
No.
Nobody really thought much of this until 2 days later when Boothby was found dead, lying sideways on his bed, clutching his throat with his own hand.
Oh.
Had the angry spirits of the Indians he had fought finally caught up to him? Nobody truly knows, but one thing's for sure, Boothby never left the mansion house.
Ooh, dark.
Dun dun dun!
Yeah.
After his passing, this became what was called by a local newspaper the best known ghost story in Alton.
Ooh.
Guests at the hotel could still hear Boothby's screams in the night on the second floor in what used to be his old room, and frantic footsteps could be heard across the floor years after Boothby's death. Even after the building had been renovated and turned into apartments in the 1940s, residents could still hear Boothby's cries and fear on some nights, not knowing the story of the man who is reliving his greatest fears.
Oh my god. Imagine living in that apartment.
No thanks.
Would you ever live in an apartment where something bad happened? Ever, like, if it was years and years and years ago? Or, better yet, because I know someone that ended up in an apartment that they didn't know something bad happened until after they had been living there. If you found out something like that after you'd already been living there, would you move out, or would you just be like, well, I'm already here?
No, I would not move out. I would call my local clergy and have them come and bless the home.
What if it was something, this is off topic of the paranormal, what if it was something like of this world, like a murder happened in your home?
Like
and
Amityville or something?
No, just like one. Just one. Not like a mass, nothing paranormal, nothing like that. Just someone killed someone in that apartment, you moved in, and then the pizza delivery guy goes, oh my God, can't believe somebody lives here. And you go, wait, why? And they tell you, oh, you didn't know that Sally was murdered in this apartment 20 years ago?
Okay.
Are you living there or what? Because I know someone that this happened to.
If it was 20 years ago, well, first of all,
Wait,
I have signed a lease agreement, so I'd be stuck there anyway.
Actually, it was more like maybe 10 years at this point when this person found out.
Interesting. I'd probably stay again. I would call my local clergy and bless the home.
Okay.
And say prayers over it. And then if any activity remains, just call out, be like, I hear you, see you. Let's live in peace.
Okay.
And death, I guess.
Because I'd leave.
I know you would. Immediately. And
Yep.
all your belongings would
I'd go
stay behind.
with the pizza guy in his car.
Take me.
We'll have the pizza together. I couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't imagine, in this case, hearing cries and screams at night, not knowing the history, and you're just like, what is going on in my house?
Every night someone's getting just attacked, and you're just like, oh, it's just part of the normal routine. Yeah. No, that's wild.
Mm-mm. So next on the list is what is considered by residents as the most haunted house in all of Alton. The McPike Mansion, once a sprawling and beautiful home to a prominent man at the time it was built, is now in disarray after years of neglect. It was built in 1869 by Henry McPike. I told you we'd come back to him.
Mm-hmm.
Said that in the first episode. He was a businessman, real estate developer, and served as the mayor for many years. He came to Alton as a young man in 1847 and stayed there until his death at McPike Mansion in 1910. He was a very important man to the development of Alton. The McPike Mansion was dubbed Mount Lookout and sat on 15 acres of land used for Henry's interest in horticulture.
Oh.
It had 16 rooms, a vaulted wine cellar, and beautifully intricate designs throughout, including marble fireplaces, mantels, banisters, and tiled floors.
Wow, do we have pictures?
I will put some up, yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know if we have any pictures of before.
Okay.
The home was passed on to his son, John, when Henry died, but was sold off to its next owner after the death of John McPike. The next owner, Paul Leichinger, I think is how you say his name, also passed away within the mansion walls in 1951, and from there it was turned into an apartment house in 1955. This is when the stories of the hauntings began. There was one former tenant of the home who claimed that while seated on the front steps of their apartment one afternoon, a young girl and her brother saw a ghostly woman in a white dress walk down the stairs before vanishing into thin air.
What did we say on the last episode?
I know. Woman in white, woman in black, woman in blue. Sentiment stands. Women are spooky.
Good.
I know. I kind of like that.
You should all be scared.
Like 99% of our viewers are women. So
I know, and I...
Spooky women unite here.
I love it. This is exactly what I wanted.
I want that on a shirt. Spooky women unite. Residents also heard footsteps throughout the night and day, and strange feeling of not being alone just hung over the building. You know that feeling?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Just where the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. I'm getting that feeling now.
Don't know what I was about to say. I suddenly am kind of a little itchy. Okay.
Unfortunately, in the early 1970s, the building fell into disrepair and looters and vandals began taking advantage of its vulnerable state.
Ugh, that always makes me so sad. I hate seeing old, like, beautiful houses that are just like me.
Yeah,
like just
crumbled.
They just let it go. Like, whether it's from like a family that had it passed down and then everybody's arguing about who has the house, so then it just goes to nothing.
Yeah.
It makes me so sad because houses now are so boring, and all the good houses are either like obviously taken care of and passed on to families or become businesses, or just completely
fallen apart.
Yes.
Well, this one fell apart mostly because of crappy people.
Yeah. I mean, normally.
Nearly every piece of marble, copper piping, custom doors, chandeliers, and even toilets were taken from the property.
Boo!
Soon after anything valuable disappeared from the home, people began breaking into the property solely for the purpose of destruction. They broke windows, punched through walls, graffitied most surfaces. It was like really sad reading through this. Like,
Yeah,
I hate to hear about that.
me too.
Now that there was no longer anything to protect it from the elements, the rain and winds seeped into the walls and caused extensive damage. Luckily for the property and for Alton, the two subsequent owners had their hearts set on repairs.
Woo!
And the current owners, Sharon and George Ledke, are still working towards a historically accurate restoration.
Nice.
I could not get that word out. Unknown to the Ledkes when they bought the property, Mount Lookout is still very much haunted.
Oh, man.
Of course. There are tours hosted here throughout the year in efforts to continue to raise money to restore the home, and with each tour comes countless stories of people's encounters with the ghosts that walk its halls.
Oh my gosh. We talk about tours and stuff, and I know I've said it. We went to Galveston in like September, but I want to go on one again. It was
I know.
It was just so interesting.
Well, it's fine. I'm sure there's some nearby.
Oh, I'm sure. But
Let's look into that.
I don't know, but it kind of
Note to self.
I talk a big game, but I actually get scared.
We can go again during the day.
But then it's just not as like
Spooky.
ooh, yeah, I want to be scared, but then again I don't. Know what I mean?
I share that sentiment, yes. But what's nice about these tours is most of the money goes to restoring the building.
Mhm.
And I love that. They take donations too. So if anybody's interested in looking at their website. Sharon heard from many curious paranormal seekers after their purchase that they had seen or felt a spirit within its walls. But her first encounter with the spirits of the McPike Mansion came 6 weeks after buying the home.
Oh, it's pretty quick.
While watering the plants in the garden, she looked up at the house and noticed the figure of a man wearing a white shirt and striped tie standing in the window staring out at her.
I just got chills.
Knowing there was nobody in the house but her heart immediately sank. But just as fast as she had noticed him watching her, he disappeared as quickly. She knew she couldn't have been seeing things because of how clearly he appeared to her. I mean, she could tell down to the detail of what his tie looked like.
I've said it once, and I will say it every single time we talk about this. Seeing full body apparitions of
Yeah.
people and things, just like, why? I
Yeah.
don't
know that my brain would fully comprehend it.
I would think it was the killer. Like, I would think it was someone coming to kill me, and my mind doesn't immediately go to ghost. My
Mine
mind
does.
goes to, oh, that's a man, and that man's gonna kill me. That's always what I'm thinking. So,
My mind first goes to paranormal and then goes to, what are you doing?
like, I'm gonna say that's a little bit concerning in the real world.
I know.
You know, I mean,
should
this
probably
is
work
the
on
real
that.
world, but like, that's the first
Outside
place.
of the pod.
Yeah, that's the first place your mind goes. That's concerning.
Unfortunately, yes. When I hear a noise at night, it's never robbers. It's like ghosts.
Really?
Yes.
Not me, man.
So Sharon eventually began to look into the history of previous owners and recognized an image of Paul Leichinger as being the man she saw.
No way.
Could you imagine
No.
seeing his apparition and then actually connecting it, seeing a picture of someone who looks just like that?
No.
Like, that proves it to
I
me
don't-
anyway. I don't know.
I don't know if it makes it scarier or like kind of like helps out because you know, like, oh, it's just this harmless person that used to own the place, or if it makes it like so real that it's like, oh my god, that was the man that owned the place. Like, I don't know
think-
how you take that.
My first thought would be, what? And my second thought would be, aw.
Really?
Like, yeah, like he's still watching over and like he loved his house. More encounters with Paul continued for more than just Sharon. Many claim to smell cigarette smoke, though nobody has smoked in there for decades. And one group even claimed to see a cloud of smoke appear above their heads as the smell became stronger.
Oh, weird.
Paul loved his home at Mount Lookout and seems to still be enjoying his time there in the afterlife.
That's kind of cute, I guess.
I think it's cute.
Yeah.
Sharon has also been touched by a spirit that she felt had the name of Sarah. So she just like knew intuitively that its name was
Okay.
Sarah. I don't know. The spooky part about this, besides being touched by a disembodied finger, is that a man once brought by a stack of books to the Ledkes that had been taken from the house 20 years before the couple moved in.
How did he know?
He might have taken them. I don't know.
Oh.
I told you, people just came in and looted everything.
Okay.
But a woman named Sarah Wells was the owner of at least one of those books, as her name was written on the inside cover.
Ooh. Oh my gosh.
Which on one hand, Sarah's kind of a common name. But still, to have that connection, that's creepy.
That is very spooky.
Many visitors to the underground wine cellar claim to hear footsteps above them through the house, as well as distinct sounds of steps on the stairs leading to the room, though nobody was around the area at the time that could explain such sounds. The most insane encounter, though, was caught on camera by a visitor to the McPike Mansion. A professor at a university in Pennsylvania took a tour of the house with Sharon as she videoed the entire thing. As they entered the basement, suddenly a white mist moved towards her, swirled up around her, and sent what felt like electrical charge through her.
Oh.
The mist then moved away with a purpose and flowed over to several other locations in the basement before disappearing completely. I wasn't able to find the video, or like at least a good
I was about to say
version of the video, but Troy Taylor claims that the video was even featured on a program on ABC at one point.
Oh.
Because it was just unexplainable. He said that it was on some kind of show where they like debunk things, and he said the hosts or whatever were like, oh, I don't know what that is.
Oh.
So, really interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of scary.
There is a college in Alton now called the Lewis and Clark Community College, but it has a sweet past and even sweeter haunting from its history. It was founded in 1838 as Monticello College, and it was a school for young women. Like many colleges for women at the time, the main goal for the women was to become a respectable young lady and prepare her for marriage. But, unlike many schools at the time, it had a strong emphasis on subjects that we think of today when we think of college. So they didn't learn only music and needlework, but also math, history, philosophy, and many other core subjects.
Nice.
Which is interesting. It was a little progressive for its time. It was run well for many years, but something changed in 1867 when Harriet Haskell took the position of principal at Monticello. She took great pride in the school and taught the young women to be Monticello ladies, is what she called them. She took care of the grounds as well as the students, and the school had its glory days while Haskell was in charge. In 1888, a devastating fire roared through the school, practically destroying everything, but Haskell, with the help of local firefighters and townspeople, were able to get all 130 young women out of the dormitories unharmed.
Nice.
Nice.
I mean, great.
Sorry, it just made me giggle. Most people who saw the damage caused by the fire after all was said and done believed that this was the last anyone would see of Monticello. But they didn't know Harriet Haskell. She immediately went to work on fundraising and planning for the rebuilding of the school and had it back up and fully operational by 1902.
Wow.
She lived on the grounds while raising 2 nieces, as she didn't have any children of her own. But she treated every student that passed through the halls like her own child. And when she passed away, after running the school for 40 years, a great many of her former students returned to Alton from across the nation to pay their respects at her funeral.
Aww.
Though her physical body was no longer residing over the school, it seems her spirit never left the grounds of Monticello College. Like all the other spirits of Alton.
Yeah, I was about to say, nobody leaves Alton.
Apparently it's a good town.
I don't want to go there. I would never want to go there.
Do.
That's so... No, I feel like, what if we never leave? I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Spooky. Many people have smelled her signature lilac perfume while walking through the building, and in her favorite room in the building, she has interacted with many students and faculty alike. The library of Lewis and Clark College was once the chapel back when the school was called Monticello. One night, a librarian was finishing up her duties in the library when she felt the tap of a finger on her shoulder. But when she turned to see who needed her help, not a single person was in the library with her.
I don't like the idea of being touched by a ghost.
Me neither. She believes she may have just been imagining it, but when it happened a second time, she was sure it was real and left the library early that night. It was just like, okay, I get it. Goodbye. Another librarian saw the full-body apparition of a lady standing near her desk one night. Thinking it may have been someone needing her assistance, she began to make her way over to her desk and ask if they needed any help. But before she got there, the ghostly woman vanished into thin air. I would also leave. Be like, okay, just keep on walking out the door. The most haunting story comes from several maintenance workers for the college in the early 1990s. They had received a call telling them that an elevator had gotten stuck halfway between 2 floors, and there was a young woman trapped inside. Side note, big fear of mine.
One of my biggest fears. Oh my gosh.
When we used to go to cheer camp, every single time the elevators would mess up. Every single time.
I got stuck one time.
Did you?
Yeah, me and my best friend, we got stuck because there were some kids like playing around with the buttons and stuff, and we got stuck for a little bit, and I was like instantly panicked.
I didn't get stuck, but some of my friends did.
They freaked me out. I don't take elevators unless I'm like with people that like we're all going in it, so like I might as well go in it, I always take the stairs.
Oh, my old job, I worked on the 30th floor.
Oh, I'd walk 30 flights of stairs.
No, you wouldn't.
Mhm.
Early in the morning, 7 a.m.
Yes.
30 flights. Okay, that's absurd. But back to Alton elevator. When they got to the elevator, they could hear the young lady crying for help and asking them to please get her out. They worked diligently trying to get the elevator down and open it as fast as they could. She became increasingly upset, and they were speaking to her the entire time trying to calm her down. When they were finally able to get the doors open on the proper floor, they stood back waiting for the girl to get out of the elevator, but nobody ever came. They looked inside, and it was completely empty.
That made my arm go numb. I like almost dropped the mic. That's really scary.
Yeah.
Because I just imagine like, please help me. It's nobody.
Yeah. I'm getting hot.
Yeah. I don't know
Sweat.
why. That like really made my arms go numb.
There's a building in Alton that now houses several shops and even a museum, but it has a wild history, much like all of Alton.
I was about to say.
And it's nothing new, but this is extra, okay? And it's haunted beyond belief. I think you will really enjoy this place's history, actually.
Me?
Yes, I think so. It might be one of my favorite buildings that I've read about, and is one of the main reasons that this is a two-parter, because this section is pretty extensive. The building began first as a butcher shop in the late 1800s, opened by German immigrant brothers Hermann and August Luhr. They were very hardworking and business savvy and made a name for themselves in Alton fairly quickly. They not only ran their butcher shop, but also founded Alton Banking and Trust and invested very successfully in real estate. By 1910, business was doing so well that they decided to expand their operations and open up an ice making and cold storage facility.
Ice making?
Ice making.
Okay.
I don't know when refrigeration started, so
Okay.
I don't know.
I just wanted to
they had
clarify.
some special processes in 1910.
Okay.
While expanding the building, workers discovered a natural spring rich in sulfur beneath the grounds. Their plans were halted while they reevaluated what they had on their hands. It is rumored that a chemist told the brothers that the waters had great medicinal properties. And since health spas and mineral baths were becoming wildly popular throughout the Midwest, the ice storage plans were changed. The brothers teamed up with another local immigrant named A.F. Ratz from France, who was the GM of another successful and high-end hotel in Alton.
Rats?
Ratz with a Z.
Nice.
He teamed up with the Luhrs, and after spending $100,000, which is $3.1 million today,
God.
in construction, the luxury hotel and spa, dubbed the Mineral Springs Hotel, was opened bit by bit beginning in 1914. This place was immaculate. I mean, for $3 million, it better be.
Yeah.
So it was designed like an Italian villa with the largest indoor swimming pool in all of Illinois at the time, a massive dining area. I think it was called, like, it was marketed as like the biggest dining table in all of Alton or something like that. Like,
Okay.
that was just really exciting for
Just a
people. I don't know. Like,
cafeteria?
let's go see a giant table. I don't know.
Okay.
A barbershop, cigar store, a saloon, and a ballroom. A water bottling plant was built in the lowest basement of the building that started at selling more than 100 bottles of water every day and eventually was shipping out more than 350 gallons of water per week.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of water. And it was like the healing water too, like the mineral spring
Oh,
water. So
Fancy.
special powers within. There were lots of claims made about the water that made not only the bottles popular, but brought in loads of guests. It was said to essentially be a cure-all for any ailment that you may have had. It's said to cure the common cold, headaches, muscle aches, arthritis, impotence, baldness, and even alcoholism. I don't know if you like rub a little on your head. I don't know.
I don't have any comments.
One customer was quoted as saying, "I know for a fact that a drink or two of it will, in the course of an hour or two, completely sober the drunkest man you ever saw."
It's water.
Special water.
Wow.
Obviously, it didn't really do any of these things, though it may have helped ease the pain of some people's arthritis and other ailments because the sulfur and some of the minerals in it are kind of like good for you, I guess.
Great.
But it wasn't a cure. That was all the rage at the time, and Mineral Springs Hotel was not the only natural spring that was used in this way either. The hotel itself may have been just as popular as its water. Over 3,000 people from all over the world would visit the hotel per busy season in the 20s and 30s. It boasted many famous guests and held many parties and celebrations between the mineral pool and the ballroom. The pool was free for guests, but also allowed public visitors for a fee. The success of the hotel, though, did not last forever. It did well into the 30s, but its decline began when Rat sold his interest in the business to focus on his health. Then another tragic event occurred that solidified its downfall. So let's take a quick segue into a hint of true crime for a little bit.
Oh, no.
Because I thought this was very interesting. So anything I find interesting just gets thrown in here. In July of 1933, August Luer is now 70 years old at this point, is sitting in his home with his wife, Helena. They just finished dinner and were readying themselves for bed when they heard a knock at the door. He opened the door to find a woman, and she asked for a name, but August told her that person didn't live there. Before he had a chance to shut the door, two men pushed past the woman, grabbed August Luer, and began dragging him outside. The woman at the front door had cut the phone lines, and the three of them beat Helena to the floor when she tried to stop their kidnapping of her husband.
Oh my God.
She had only minor injuries, but now her husband was gone, and she had no way of knowing where the assailants took him as they drove away from her home. It was apparently very popular amongst criminals to kidnap high-profile and rich individuals and ask for ransom at the time, rather than rob banks. And that is exactly their plan. They end up taking August to a dugout underneath a smokehouse close to Madison, Illinois, about 20 miles south of Alton, and there he stayed for the next 5 days.
Oh my God.
They initially requested $100,000 from August's son, William, but eventually went down to $20,000 and then finally $10,000 for their father's return. Luckily, August was playing up their sympathy and they allowed him plenty of food and water and even his heart medication as needed. Then August was able to talk them into completely releasing him after he promised to pay them $16,000 when he returned home.
Stupid.
Yeah, they weren't very smart.
No.
Set him free about 5 miles away from where they were keeping him. Dirty and unkempt, August walked into a local bar and said, "I'm August Luer, from Alton, and some fellas took me out of my house and have been keeping me in a cellar. Please call the sheriff."
Was this like a known thing? Like everybody was looking for him, or were people just like, okay?
Well, I mean, he
August.
was a very rich guy from about 20 miles north in a bigger town.
So they were probably like, oh, we
They
know
probably,
who you are.
yeah, were at least heard of him, I'm sure.
Ooh.
He was safely returned to his home, and with the help of Helena and August, they were able to identify their captors. There were 7 in all, and all of them but one woman named Vivian Chase were eventually caught and convicted to life in prison.
Oh, wow.
Vivian was eventually found, but she was dead in Kansas City after robbing a bank.
Oh my God. I was going to ask, like, did she just get away with it? But no.
She kept on with her crimes, and they don't, it didn't say how, but I
Yeah.
assume she was murdered.
Yeah. Ooh, dark.
As you can imagine, the kidnapping took a toll on August, and even more so his brother's death a few years later in 1939. August lived another 18 years after his capture, and as both brothers passed, ownership of the hotel passed along to their children and their spouses. This is when the business at the Mineral Springs Hotel began to fall. With mismanagement slowly killing business, what seemed to be one of the biggest factors in the hotel's eventual demise was when federal agencies cracked down on all places like natural springs claiming false properties of their products.
What?
Like magical healing mineral water.
Oh, okay.
So I'm assuming it's like the FDA. Like you can't claim that this is a cure.
Okay, that makes sense.
It forced them to stop bottling the water, and it was on slow decline until it's closed as a hotel in 1971.
I thought you said it was. Is it not still a thing?
It is still there,
Oh, okay.
but it is no longer a hotel.
Oh,
It was a
okay.
hotel until 1971.
Okay.
It was eventually bought and turned into an array of shops, restaurants, and other businesses, and though it has changed hands a few times, it still runs this way today. But it has added another thing to its list as of late. It is a hot spot for paranormal activity and a popular stop for ghost tours and paranormal investigators.
Because, I mean, it's Alton, Illinois, so duh.
But it's one of the big places that tours will go by.
Mm-hmm.
As with most hauntings, the Mineral Springs Hotel has had a myriad of tragic events occur on its premises that could account for the immense amount of activity felt and witnessed here to this day. Actual written reports of spectral beings and eerie noises coming from seemingly nobody began in the 70s and hasn't slowed down since.
Oh, man.
There are so many encounters at Mineral Springs Hotel, but the most active spot has to be the old pool on the bottom basement floor.
Ooh, I don't like that.
I know, just water,
We talked about that the last episode.
underground.
It's too much.
Yeah, same. I agree.
It combines too many of my fears.
We are a fearful bunch.
Yeah.
Though the pool has been without water since the 70s, there seems to be a spirit or two still lingering to take a dip in the mineral-rich waters. There are several rumored spirits, but only one of their identities can be verified by an actual death at the pool.
Oh.
A man named Clarence Blair went for a swimming lesson in the murky mineral water in the summer of 1918. It's believed that he dove into the water, hit his head, and never came back to the surface. Later that day, another man swam to the bottom of the pool to recover something that had fallen, and that's when Clarence was discovered.
Wait. He went for a swimming lesson?
Yeah.
And nobody was there? Like, he just dove in?
I don't know. It wasn't very clear.
That doesn't add up.
He knew how to swim, but he was there just like swimming around. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
But yeah.
Nobody knew he was down there. Okay.
Nobody knew he was down there until a couple hours later.
Oh, how traumatizing.
Yeah. Though he is the only death at the pool confirmed by actual records, that doesn't stop the legends from swirling. There is another story of a man arguing with his wife while visiting the pool in the 1920s when he was struck by something and fell into the pool and drowned. Then there is a young girl named Cassandra or Cassie who was 10 years old in the 20s when she attended a birthday party at Mineral Springs Pool.
Oh.
Once again, she is a suspected victim of drowning in the water and spending her last moments down in the basement pool of the hotel. The amount of activity at the pool certainly suggests multiple spirits haunting the cavernous halls of the lower level of Mineral Springs. There have been stories of disembodied footsteps heard echoing through the room, people being touched while on walking tours through the building, and even the sightings of full-body apparitions down here. One of the spookiest stories comes from someone who used to work in the building. They claim to have been outside the doors of the pool when he heard splashing noises coming from the other room. Knowing that there hasn't been water in the pool for literal decades, he walked in to find out what could have possibly made the noise. But as it should have been, nobody was there. When he looked down at the floor towards the pool, he noticed a section of wet footprints crossing across the floor and suddenly ending in the middle of its walk.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No water anywhere. Just little wet footprints. That got me.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about that one for a while.
I didn't have anything to say because, like, ugh. That's my commentary. Ugh.
Just ugh.
Yeah.
While giving tours, some guides have actually been pushed by disembodied hands while making their way to the pool, and on several occasions, participants in these ghost tours swear to have seen a man standing near the edge of the pool. Thinking it must have been another person in their tour group, they think nothing of it until the lights come back on, and that person is no longer there. In fact, there is no trace of a man in the group dressed as the one that they have seen. Most ominously, there have been reports of a particularly angry spirit traipsing through the pool area, appearing as a tall, black, shadowy figure. Could this be Clarence? Maybe he's the one flinging boxes off shelves and moving things in the night as well.
Why, Clarence?
I don't know. Maybe he's mad that he was at swimming lessons and nobody saved him.
I mean, hey, fair.
The entire building of the Mineral Springs Hotel is filled with stories of paranormal encounters by many who pass through. People hear the sounds of floors creaking under the weight of an invisible foot, doors slam on their own, and lights turn on and off without any logical reason. Another verifiable ghost, though, tends to stay around the saloon. There was a story of an artist who passed before he could finish a mural as a way to repay the debts racked up by drinking at the bar, but there's no merit to this old legend, so I just want to throw that out there.
Could just be a legend.
I hear a lot of people, or I heard a lot of people talking about it, and there's nothing to back this up. Instead, a man named L.M. Harwood did exist, and his untimely demise did occur in a booth in the old bar. On November 15th, 1916, Harwood walked down from his room at the Mineral Springs Hotel, checked himself out, and left the hotel, only to return a bit later through the bar entrance where he found himself a seat in a booth alone. He laid out several documents detailing parts of his life, his death, and the plans that should be made for him afterwards. He had a list of friends in the area that were to be contacted to identify his body, and then contact his wife and children to tell them the news. He even wrote a note to the newspaper in his hometown explaining why he chose to do what he did. He pulled out his gun and took his own life right there in that very booth.
Why?
The shot rang out through the hotel, and he succumbed to his injuries not long afterwards. The press release that he'd written out read in part, "I have been sick for the greater part of the time for 5 years. I have tried to come back, but I can't quite do it. Then why should I stick around in the way? You will say, he was a coward. Just sit around contemplating something of the kind for a month or two at a time and see. If there are any other reason for the act, it is no one's business."
That's really
It's
heartbreaking. Yeah.
It was said by a few of his friends after his death that he struggled with alcoholism through his adult life, and it's possible that Mr. Harwood is one of the spirits still earthbound, wandering the halls of Mineral Springs Hotel, lamenting on his life and the choices that he made. People can still hear the sounds of doors opening and closing and moans and cries in the old saloon. And maybe it's Mr. Harwood.
That one just makes me sad.
It is really sad. Tragic.
I don't know. Like, it's sad when people die in general, but just knowing his end was so dark and just, yeah, I don't like that one.
There's one more confirmed death on the premises that the author of Haunted Alton talks about, and she is definitely worth the mention. Her name was Pearl Sands, but she checked into the Mineral Springs Hotel under the name Ola Whirl in the summer of 1965 and never checked out. There are many speculations as to why her death happened, and some say she may have been a victim of abuse at the hands of her husband, though I don't think that any of this is confirmed.
Okay.
She checked in on a Monday, was reported missing the following Tuesday night, and was found by an employee on Wednesday. She had a drink from room service and several empty bottles of pills lying beside her. She is still wandering the halls of the old hotel and can be heard around the room that her last breath was taken. Many women still get sick and heavy feelings when they enter the room that Pearl overdosed in, and some even claim to hear her and a man bickering with each other within the hotel room.
Oh my gosh. Because, okay, whenever you said she checked in with a different name, I was like, why? And then you started going on. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
All the tragic events just, like, bring about all these hauntings.
Yeah,
I swear. And I think that's why this place is, like, one of the most creepy.
There's just so much at this one spot.
Mm-hmm. One interesting connection made long after this her story had been told as ghostly lore is that she may be responsible for another bit of action that people experience on the staircase. There have been a great number of claims that people will get a whiff of a strong flowery scent while around the staircase. Jasmine flowers, to be exact. While giving a tour of the Mineral Springs Hotel, author Troy Taylor said that he had the nephew of Pearl with him when he offhandedly said that Pearl used to wear a very strong perfume, and wouldn't you know it, she always smelled of jasmine. So people had been
smelling
her and not knowing that, and the nephew didn't know that there was a ghost on the staircase that smelled of jasmine. He just was like offhanded, like, oh yeah, I used to spend a lot of time at my Aunt Pearl's house, but my mom always made me take a bath when I came home because she had this like really strong perfume. It smelled like flowers, jasmine. And Troy Taylor was like,
confirmed,
yes. So Pearl is quite possibly not only Ola, but the spirit dubbed the Jasmine Lady. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention the area where the bottling took place in its heyday. There is talk of a dark, shadowy figure haunting its halls. And though there aren't really any deaths connected to the area, it was rumored to have been used as a site in which satanic rituals and worship took place after the building was no longer in use.
Oh my God.
Maybe something was summoned.
Took a dark turn.
Yeah. Like anything, when you hear satanic worship, we should be cautious not to outright believe it, because the whole satanic panic thing. When I hear like, oh, there's Satan worship on this ground, I'm like, oh, maybe.
Probably just
maybe
teenagers
not.
being loud. I mean,
Loud,
realistically.
Just messing stuff up, but
hey, it's possible.
But I just wanted to throw it in here. So, if it's true, and dark rituals took place on the grounds of a place that is already chock full of spirits, then it's no wonder that nearly everyone who enters gets a sense that they are being followed by a spirit.
Oh. Yeah, no, don't like that.
So this is where we'll wrap it up. So we've had 2 full episodes to discuss the hauntings of Alton, Illinois, and I think I might agree that it is indeed one of the most haunted small towns in America.
I really honestly forgot that's what we were talking about. There's so much.
Yeah.
Like,
I could have gone on and on. I mean, there's an entire book. There's a whole season of a podcast dedicated to it. It's crazy.
Final thought, I do want to go there.
I knew it.
Because
knew you'd come around.
There's so much, and I just feel like at the end of the first episode, I was just kind of like information overload, and then this one, I still feel that way, but I know that there's more that you cut out. Wow. Okay.
And same. Wow. Okay, so not only does it have the tumultuous history, but the grounds themselves seem to exude some kind of paranormal energy. It is said that limestone has some properties that allow it to record events and play it back over and over for the rest of time. This isn't proven, obviously, but it's believed by some paranormal believers.
Okay.
That it just absorbs the energy in its surroundings and amplifies it back out, especially to those sensitive to the other side. And maybe the fact that Alton sits on bluffs of limestone near the river has a constant loop of the past replaying over the present.
Interesting.
There's also some connection to water and the paranormal, as if it's like a conduit for energy released by the spirits. So combined with the limestone, like it just amplifies it even more. And a river town would be the perfect place to see some spirits if that's the case.
Yeah.
This is definitely something I want to talk about though. Water and the paranormal.
Oh, me too.
So it's on there. I think somebody has already suggested it too. It's on our list. So I won't dive too much into water and limestone and all that yet. But,
Okay.
But I will end by saying this. I'm convinced. And yes, we were going on a road trip in the near future.
I am also convinced, and I am down.
All right. I'm glad you've come around.
Yeah, it took some time, but it wasn't all dark. So I think I'm on board.
It's a lot of dark history, but there are some good things too. So like the people who lived there and died there seem to have loved this place.
They don't seem angry and like,
not all of them. Some of them.
Yeah. So I'm down. Let's go.
All right. With that note, let us know what you thought of this episode. Leave a comment down below. Would you go to Alton? Have you been to Alton? We'd love to hear your stories if you have any.
Oh, yeah.
Because anything connected to this, I'm now very interested. So we appreciate you taking the time to listen or watch, whatever you're doing. Don't forget to rate and review if you're on podcasts. Like and share if you're on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram at Ghosteas Pod and keep up with what we've got going on. And if you have a creepy or supernatural encounter of your own, we want to hear it. So you can DM us or you can email us at ghosteaspod@gmail.com. And hopefully you'll hear your story in a future episode. We're so excited to be going on this adventure with you guys, and we'll see you next Monday. Goodbye. Bye.